start recording. Okay, so about UVing, as I said, made this nice cube. So in the poly modeling we have this UV editor. Basically what it means is just we need to separate these faces in a way. So if I just select all the faces, and I'm going to show you, this is not UVing, but this is how the UVing works. So I'm going to extract faces, if I can just see here, extract faces. Okay. So I'm just going to extract faces one at a time. Just selecting a face and press G, and G is going to repeat the last operation. Okay, and G. So now each face is different, is separate from the cube, right? So now if you think of this cube as a 3D object, we need to make this object as you know, put it on a flat plane. So this is just an example. It's not how we UV it again. This is just how it's kind of gonna look in the UV sheet. So don't do this. I'm just doing this so you can understand how it works. Okay. So now, if I can just move these out of the way. So now I have this cube, which is a 3D cube, but I want this 3D cube to be, let me assign a new material and give it a color. Okay. Oh, so they're different so I can see them better. So I want to make this 3D object as a 2D, control spacebar, as a 2D flat plane. So basically this is like a texture, a square texture, and so we're going to use mainly square textures, and we want to make this cube flat. So we need to flatten the cube on this piece of surface, flat surface, right? So Maya does this thing automatically where we don't have to rotate these shells like we're doing them now. Yeah, and just gonna, Maya does this automatic. So we just need to basically cut the faces of the cube, or you know, of the mesh, and put them in the right place. Okay. And now if we go to Photoshop, we can actually paint over these squares. Okay, so we can go in Photoshop and paint on this, and this is going to be the front side, or I can't remember which one was the front side. But there's something else you can do. If the edges are close, for example, I get the cube, let's just make it bigger. So the edges, they touch each other. For example, this face and this face share this edge. Yeah, this edge. The two edges which border, they can come together, like so. Okay, so we get another one here, another edge, and it is between this one and this one. So we get this edge, actually this one, I mean, don't worry about what I'm doing now, it's just for me to explain it to you. Yeah, okay, and then we get another one, but the problem with the last one is that indeed it shares one here, but it shares also with the one that we started. So we cannot, you know, we cannot do it anymore on this side. So it needs to be somewhere else. And probably it's going to look something like this, you know. Anyway, and so on. Let me show you how it looks like by default. Control spacebar. I'm going to delete all this. I hope it is clear, like what Maya does. It's just tries to get the 3D object and put it on a 2D surface so we can paint on it, texture it. So let me show you what Maya does. By default, this is how it looks like. Yeah, this is the square which I showed you, and this is, you know, those faces. So that's one, you can see it. That's the one is on the bottom, yeah, and then another one here, then another one on the top, and then another one here, and then these two which are on the sides. So great, let's just start with something simple now, like for example a cylinder. So let's just start with this cylinder. Before doing anything into UVing, we just select the whole object, and this is very important. You see we have some scale. I did some scaling on it, and usually if you have anything in here on your objects, any one of them, you'll get a bad UVing, unfolding, unwrapping, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So what we need to freeze the transformations. So at least on the scale, we don't care about rotation, translation and rotation. We only care about scale. So if you have anything in the scale that is not, for example, if you scale like 5, 5, 5, that is fine. But we get 4, 1, 4, and this is bad because it's not, it doesn't have a good ratio. Yeah, the ratio needs to be 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. Yeah, same. Okay, so freeze the transformations, and now you can see I get everything is back to 1. And also a good practice is to delete the history. Okay, you can see that there's a lot of history of modeling which I did here. So select everything and delete the history. Delete the history is also Alt, Shift, and D. Good. So next step is to create some UVs. Yeah, so we have some UVs, but this is what Maya did by default, and the object changed, so we cannot use this anymore. So with the UV editor opened, let me just double click on this, we create and we use the camera based, right? So basically, depending on how my camera was positioned, is gonna project yeah, like you see, this is the camera, and this is it kind of looks similar. So let's just start with this object here. Control 1, I'm going to Control 1 to isolate my selection, and then press F to frame it. And it's good to have two screens. Okay, so this, how would I make this as a flat object? So I can have multiple pieces. I can have, for example, the interior. So if I just let me show you a quick way of selecting these edges all around. So if I just double click, it won't go. It doesn't like it. Maya doesn't like it. So it kind of takes more time to select it. So I need to do it on both ways. But what I can do, I can select the faces and shift double click on the next one. I think there's something wrong with my vertices, so I'm going to select everything, all the vertices, and shift right click, merge vertices. And let me try one more time. Still like that. Oh yeah, I can see there's a problem here. So I have, you see, I have this vertex and they're not aligned here, and when I try to go around, it won't let me. It's just gonna stop up here. So let's just fix this problem. Okay, here it was. So modeling, and we're gonna use the target weld, and I'm gonna weld this top to the bottom. And let's see on this side as well. Okay, here we go. And I got one here, same problem. Okay, let's try again. Face, shift double click. Oh yeah, see? So I selected one face and shift double clicked on the next and selected all around, and that is a continuous loop. So this is what we want, and then we use control and right click, and then we select the edges parameter, yeah, and that's going to select all the edges around. Or if you just click on edge, double click and use shift double click again, that's going to select oh, look at that, on this side it didn't. So select the edges all around. So with these edges selected, I could have done it here as well. So you just double click and select them here. If you can see, like this in 3D space. So select them, and then what we need to do, we need to start cutting. So you remember I separated those pieces, and this is what is happening now. I'm cutting those pieces with cut. Okay, and now we have something called UV shell. So basically, if I right click and hold, and I get an UV shell, and I have two UV shells, and this is like a continuous mesh. It's like an island of a mesh, yeah, and I have two of them. And if I want to unfold this, for example, like to make it flat, I can go to the next step and unfold. But something weird is going to happen, that is trying to make a cylinder flat, and you cannot make a cylinder flat. If I enable this, this is something called UV distortion, yeah, and it's helping us to identify problems in the UVing, but it's not so obvious here. But I'm telling you, you cannot have a cylinder. Let me give you an example here. So let's just make a cylinder and scale it, freeze transformations. I'm going to UV it, yeah. So create camera based, and I'm going to cut the bottom and the top. Cut. So I selected the face, the edges, and then a cut. And then I'm going to select, the UV shell. I need to select the UV shell, just holding right click and UV shell and unfold. Or if we just, how about if we select the whole object? Let me select the whole object and click unfold. Yeah, it's going to unfold everything. So now you can see that my object here, once I enable this UV distortion, on the bottom it looks like reddish or pinkish, and then on the top it looks blue. And if we do this, it means that it's distorted. It's not how it should be, because you cannot flatten this this surface all around. So what we need to do, we need to cut in one spot, only one spot, or maybe you can cut in two different places. So just select the face and cut, then selecting the UV shells, unfold one more time, and now look at this. It's just nice and white. Basically it's white, there's no pink, there's no red, there's no blue, and this is a good UV. Okay, let me just delete that one. That was just an example. So let's just go back here, open the UV editor. So what we need to do now, I just need to select these edges. Okay, I selected them on both sides, and then I need to cut them. So remember, first you need to select the edges, and then you need to cut. So select, cut, then you have UV shells. Okay, remember we have UV shells. So UV shells are different components from face, and we can just unfold them. So select the UV shell and then unfold, right? So you see it made it nice and flat, so we can paint on it, texture it. Let's try this one just like as it is and see, and I think we get good results. So we don't have to do anything. So you can use the W, E and R to move and rotate, but don't worry about this. We'll do it at the end. I'm just doing it just to see things around. Okay, so that's it. First object is completed. It's UV'd. Let's go to another one, less complex. So let's just use incrementally more and more complex objects. So let's try this cylinder. I'm going to disable this UV distortion for now. Also, there's another way. If we go to UV here, and this is something called 3D cut and sew UV tool, and this is something which we can use. This tool we can use in the viewport rather than in the UV editor. So 3D cut and sew tool, we go and we just double click, and for example you can see that it made a white line, and this is it means it has been cut, separated, and this is a separate UV shell. Okay, the same on the front maybe. And if you want to get it back, you just need to use shift, and shift will sew it, I think. Or was it control? Yeah, I think it's control. Okay. So just so using control is sewing it back. Using shift, holding left click and drag is gonna cut. Okay, so what we have now, so we have the top and the bottom of my cylinder. Actually, I don't need the bottom, so let me just select the face and delete it, because it's inside the object. I don't need it. You can see control 1, it's inside, we don't need it. So again, let's just go to our UV. The last tool we used was 3D cut and sew, and we see that we have the top removed, and then on the side we have this nice cut, and then we can unfold it, right? We can unfold it now, or you can unfold it later. So let's just go to UV shell, select it, or just go select the whole object from here and unfold, and that's gonna get the UV this UV shell and this one, and now you can basically just draw on this cylinder something. Okay, control 1, continue to the next one. Let's say this one. How about if I use automatic on this one? Seems to be okay. Sometimes I just use, for simple objects, that I use automatic, and it just does it for me. But for more complex objects, you get many pieces. For example, if I use on this object automatic, let's see what it happens. You get many pieces. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I don't know. We get these really tiny pieces. It's not so great. It's not so good. So let me just go back. Okay, so just this one is done. What else? I think I'm going to use automatic for a few of these. If you think you didn't get it, I mean, we can still go on a few more times. Let's go start cutting more complex shapes. So I'm only going to use this tool, the 3D cut and sew tool, and when I use it, it just gets me in this edge mode, so I can select the edges. So what I'm going to do, I need to remove these just doesn't want to let me cut it for some reason. Here it works. When I try to cut it here, it doesn't. It works. Finally. Sometimes you just need to click and hold the left click, and then I use control if it cut in the wrong place. So basically I need to remove these middle parts, this kind of looks like a ladder step. So just holding, clicking and holding, it's gonna cut, yeah? And then control click and hold is gonna sew it back. Imagine cutting fabrics or something like, or boxes. And if I use shift, remember shift is just gonna cut along the edges. It's gonna be much faster, okay? So using shift and clicking and dragging, it's just gonna go quickly up or down with shift. I'm removing the inside. Now I'm just removing the insides, and then I will be left with the outsides. And the outsides should unfold just fine. As you can see, this is a face, that's another one, and this is another one. So you know, like this can unfold just fine. You know, this edge will move in this direction, the top one will move in this direction towards right, and then we will have our flat surface. The only thing is that we don't need any ends, but the ends I have deleted them before because they're inside the mesh and they're not seen. Also, with these steps, you see there's no cut in them, so they're continuous all around. It's like a cylinder. So we just need one cut in here. So just click, what just happened here? I think I just, and one here, yeah. Okay, seems okay. Now let's just go to unfold, double click. So I select all the UV shells. Actually I need to go out of the tool, it doesn't let me, so press Q to go out of the tool, and then UV shell. Select everything and then unfold. So I just want to see how these look like. Can I glue some of these somewhere? I think this one can be glued. Let me try and see. So I select these edges and then shift right click, move and sew. And so you can see when I'm selecting a UV shell, for example, this UV shell, but when I'm selecting the edges, it's gonna highlight, you know, the corresponding edge where it has been removed or cut. So you can see I selected here and I have them here, so just highlighting the other side. So basically this part came out from here, so I'm just gonna shift right click, move and sew. And this is, you know, to have less pieces. Sometimes you want to have less pieces, sometimes you don't. Okay, these are the cylinders. I cannot, I'm just going to leave them like that. Okay, Control 1. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give these things which I already UV'd a color. So I'm just going to assign them. So select them, add to selection using shift, and then right click, assign new material, and I'm just going to make a simple Lambert. Also change the color in the attribute editor, and there's a lot of history in here. Let's go to channel box. No, it's the same. So probably let me delete the history first. Delete the history. It was Alt Shift and D. That's the shortcut. You can write it down. And then you see here on the last one I have Lambert 2, and I'm going to call this UV'd. I'm going to give it a color so I know that these parts have been UV'd, so it's, you know, simpler for me to keep on going. So yeah, let's just move with this one. This is a very long shape. We can sometimes, if they're too long, I prefer to cut it in half, even though it creates some polygons for optimization purposes, because if I'm going to have a very long stick like this on my UVs, everything else is going to be basically bad optimized. They won't have kind of enough space. They won't be arranged properly in the this UV space. So this is the UV space which we're going to use. It's called 0 to 1. Okay, this is 0, and then 1 U and 1 V, or opposite, I can't remember which one. I think it's this is V and this is U. UV, yeah. Okay. So again, we go to the same tool. We go to UV 3D cut and sew tool, and if you guys remember, if you just hold Shift, we can go. It's going all around. See, as I'm going up or down, and then when I let go, it's done. And it's done. And what I'm going to do, because this is basically three cylinders. Now they became 3 cylinders. That's one, second one, and the third one. So we just need to cut once. Okay, so just cutting these again with Shift, holding Shift, and Control. Remember, using Control to sew it back. So Control like that. I think if I'm using Control and Shift, oh yeah, if I use Control and Shift, it's going to work in the same way like just Shift. Oh, and if I use just Shift, it's just going to cut. If I use Control and Shift, it's going to sew. So yeah, experiment with these. So just Shift, using just Shift. Okay, great. So let's have a look how it looks like. So the first thing, as I said, remember, delete the history, freeze the transformations on all of the objects. Then you create a camera based, just to see them here, you know, the representation. And then you can either use this 3D cut and sew tool, or just selecting the edges and then cut them from here. The same way you can sew it here, yeah. So cut and sew, they're here present. But as you can see, it's very easy to use this tool, 3D cut and sew tool. It's fast. Once you know the shortcut, the keys, it's gonna be very good for you to use this. So okay, let's just go out of the tools, pressing Q, and select the UV shells and unfold them. And we have a problem. This one, it hasn't been cut for some reason, and you can see how it looks like. It should look like a rectangle, but instead it looks like this weird circle, and this is not what we want. So we just need to cut it somewhere. So we can select the edge and then use the cut tool here, go to UV shell and fold it one more time. Now there's a problem here. I see that this is it made it smaller, but I think it's going to be fixed we're going to fix it in the future. Basically, we need consistency. The objects needs to be roughly the same size. We don't want really tiny UV shells, for example, like this, because this is not going to have a lot of texture, while this one is going to have a lot of texture. The bigger the size, the more textures it receives. The more texture space, you know, more pixels will be in it. Okay, so object mode, assign, right click, assign existing material, and assign UV material. Okay, this one is similar with the other one, so I'm just going to do automatic. That's something weird. What is this? Okay. maybe just sew these ones, move and sew, and that's it. Just gonna make one, move and sew, because these are continuous faces, you know what I mean? You don't need to have them chopped like this, you know, a lot of chops. You don't, it's not really necessary. It doesn't help. Okay, this one is done. Right click, assign existing material, UV'd. Now we have a few of these. I know that this one hasn't been optimized properly, so this one has these faces. I can see them. Actually, I won't be able to see them because I'm going to have a different part made in ZBrush for it. So just going to Control 1, go to front, select the faces, drag a rectangle, and that's going to select on both sides. Press delete, Control 1 again, select this one, and the same procedure, select the faces, delete, Control 1, object mode, Control 1, select these faces. Actually, this time I'm just going to use the tab, hold tab, press delete, Control 1. Okay. This one is not good because I can see the inside. So I'm just going to scale them down a little bit. So let's just UV this one. Control 1 to isolate the selection, UV. And as I said, 3D cut and sew tool. So just use the shift to remove this part. And this one needs to have a cut here somewhere, and maybe even on the top. So you get two cuts like so. And sometimes, you know, have only one cut is enough, you know, because that looks like a cylinder, but I split my cylinder in two halves. Sometimes this gives us better results in the UVs. Select them and unfold them. So you see we get these UV shells, different. And this one, if we really want to be anal about this, we just need to select these edges here and shift right click cut, UV shell select, shift right click unfold. Okay, so that's kind of relaxed a bit more. Control 1. And these two, how about if we do automatic? Oh, it cuts them too much. Well, that's fine. Oh, that's bad. This one is too many cuts. So I'm going to do another camera based, and this time I'm just going to cut in two places, cut, select the UV shells, and fold. And assign the material so we know that it has been complete. So now I'm only left with this one, the most complex part, and this one. Okay, so this one, let's try and see automatic what it does. It's a decent job, so I'm going to leave it like that. Control 1, this one, camera based again, and Control 1. And now I'm just gonna cut these pieces. So if I just select these edges all around, I use shift to double click these edges all around, shift double click on this one, and then I cut them. And now I have the top UV shell, the bottom, and the middle parts, as you can see here. Now I need to take off these sides, this one and this one, and maybe even these ones, and something like the top and the bottom. Shift right click cut. So if I look at the UV shells, oh, this one hasn't been cut properly because I have one here. So we get the front, we got the bottom and the top. So if I just control 1 with that UV shell selected, you can see it separated everything else. Yeah, and you see how it looks like, this UV shell, and you can see this how it will unfold nicely. Yeah, because it's disconnected here, and now you just can open like a blanket or like a sheet. Yeah, so let's just try and do that. Unfold, and you can see it here. Yeah, looks nice. Control 1 in this viewport. Control 1, it can work in this space and in this space as well. So be wary if you control 1 here, you're not going to see anything else. And I say, hey, where are my UVs? They're all disappeared. Okay. And this is the more, let's just keep going to this part, because this is, let's see how we can just okay. So I just want to take the top off completely, and if I had the worldwide symmetry, you can see now it selected the bottom as well, so that's going to make our life easier. Shift right click cut, and now we have these two bits. Problem here. I think my mesh is not perfectly symmetrical, and that's why this thing happened. So I'm just gonna remove the symmetry for now. Let's see. Yeah, it cut, but it's not perfectly symmetrical. So let's see this object. So control 1. Can you see this object unfold? Like, what do you think? Can you see it unfold, or do you need to do any cutting? Anyone? No?
I think we should do some cutting.
Yeah, like probably here.
Yeah, there and there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. So if we cut in these two parts, now you can see the sides coming outwards like these, and then the back, it can come up like this, and then it's going to be pretty much flat. So let's just have a look. So important, we cannot cut in the viewport. We just select the edges in the viewport. If you want to cut in the viewport, you need to use this tool. Otherwise, you select the edges and then you go on the UV editor, cut. Okay. So let's just unfold it, shift right click unfold, and now it looks kind of okay. Good. So control 1. And I think we need to do the same thing with this part. Control 1. Cut, UV shell, unfold. and you're just gonna get faster. You know, I know that looks fast, but you know, we're doing a lot of practice. I'm doing it a lot of couple of times. You'll get, you know, dexterity. Okay, this UV shell and this UV shell, control 1. Now these ones a bit tricky. I can actually cut these parts all the way off if I want to, and that might be a solution. We can try that, or we can just cut only these parts here, only here and here. So I'm going to use Control to remove the selection. I'm going to use Control Shift to add to the selection. So Control Shift only adds, Control only removes. Shift can add and remove. So it's a good note on your technical notebook. Control Shift only adds, Control removes, Shift adds and removes. Okay, so let's see. I think this can work. So deselect it. I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna select the UV shells and unfold. And I see I got some problems here. I need here to do some cutting. Here some cutting, because otherwise it looks weird. And we can see in the 3D okay, fold. Yeah. Can fold this one as well. Press G, unfold these two. Just remember, G is just do the last, repeating the last tool we used, which was unfold. This one we can unfold them, but they're cylinders, and it's not going to work exactly. So we just need to cut them in one spot, and then select the UV shells, unfold. Okay. I think we're pretty much done. Control 1 and assign material, existing UV'd, and this is the last piece. I think it has been UV'd already. Control 1, yeah, Control 1, because I couldn't see it, and assign existing. So everything is UV'd, and now this piece. There are two things we can do right now with it. We can take it straight to texturing, or let's say we want to add some damage and other stuff and make it look damaged, or I don't know, smoother in some parts, add some more organic stuff to it. We can take it to ZBrush. So this what we're doing now, it should be concentrating more on texturing and UVing, but we can go a little bit to ZBrush, so I can show you how to get a ZBrush, the object from ZBrush, UV it in Maya, or it can be UV'd in ZBrush as well, but I prefer to UV it in Maya, and then get it into texturing. So this is what we're gonna do. This object is ready for texture, and we can say I think I'm just gonna export selection. I'm gonna export this as an OBJ for ZBrush. Actually, for ZBrush, we need to do some modifications. So I'm going to open this outliner. Okay, I'm going to delete these. I don't need them anymore. Gonna center pivot, freeze transformations, and I'm gonna Control G everything. So Control G is just grouped all the objects in this group, yeah. Then I have a bunch of objects in here and I don't need them. I'm gonna press delete. It's like some artifacts, relics from the modeling. So we just cleaned it up. Okay, so I'm going to use this. This one is going to be low poly UV'd. And I'm going to duplicate this group. And this one is going to be for ZBrush. So for ZBrush, we need to do a few more steps. We need to prepare it. So remember, this is going to be used for texturing. So we don't touch it. We don't do anything to it. That's fine how it is. So I'm going to hide that one. And now I'm going to work on the for ZBrush bit. So because in ZBrush we need to subdivide it. Yeah. So if you just select everything and press 3, this is how it looks like subdivided. But some parts of the model we need to have them sharper, or the edges need to be sharper. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the edges that I want them sharper. Okay, like these ones. It's a bit a tedious job, but and then shift right click, we're gonna bevel, we're gonna remove the chamfer, so the chamfer needs to be off. And now you can see that we can change this fraction, and depending how the fraction is, if it's closer, the edges will be harder. So look at this. This is subdivided. Looks like I press 3, and you see the fraction all the way to 1 is softer, and as I close the edges, they become more and more pointy, sharper. Yeah. Okay, looks very nice and smooth. So let's just do it with the other bits. So a cool way of selecting these. This is a very nice trick. Let's see. 47 minutes. That's good. So I'm gonna select, but I need to constrain my selection. So I don't want to select everything. I want my next selection to use a border. Okay, so I go to edge mode. Yeah, go to edge mode. And I want to select all my hard edges. But I'm getting some edges which shouldn't be hard. Probably these ones. Okay.
Nishan?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Is it possible to restart the stream, because there's some students that can't see it in Discord for some reason?
Yeah. Let me just stop the streaming. Okay, that's. I restarted the stream. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Or anyways, we're recording it, so you will be able to see it. I'm gonna stop this recording.